You may think INFJs are just gentle empaths, but there's a side of you that rarely gets talked about. When pushed too far, you can become someone unrecognizable, cold, calculating, even ruthless in your distance. These traits aren't random outbursts. They are part of the shadow functions, the unconscious parts of your psyche where repressed and overlooked elements of your personality live. Trust me, by the end you'll understand not only what these reactions look like, but where they come from and how to steer them. Because of that calm presence you show the world, it often comes at a hidden cost. Before we start, please hit the like button, comment, and subscribe so you won't miss any of our weekly deep dives into the world of personality types. And if you are looking to achieve a deeper understanding of yourself and your personality type, click the link in the comments to take our favorite free personality test. Dark trait number 1, bottling up emotions, then exploding violently. One of the first dark traits that shows itself is the way you bottle up emotions until they finally explode. You take in every frustration, every slight, every dismissive remark, stacking them away like files in a cabinet that keeps getting heavier. It's not because you're weak, it comes from your strong extroverted feeling. You'd rather protect harmony and avoid conflict, so you absorb the hurt in silence instead of speaking up. But pressure always builds. Those small slights don't vanish. They simmer until the strain becomes too much. The breaking point isn't one forgotten apology or one rude comment. It's the pattern of neglect stacking over time, and when you finally erupt, the intensity catches everyone off guard. People see the emotional blast but rarely recognize the quiet resentment that led up to it. And it isn't random. You don't erupt without cause. Every outburst follows a path of unspoken tension, a countdown you feel but rarely show. The person on the receiving end often has no idea what triggered it, since you expected them to notice long before. A healthier move? Address the small hurts early. By speaking up when the wound is small, you prevent it from growing into a larger issue later. Because when words are avoided for too long, sometimes the silence pushes you into even harsher measures. Dark trait number 2, the infamous INFJ door slam technique. Another trait that often surfaces is the infamous INFJ door slam. It isn't an angry scene or a heated argument. It's a cutting off of connection carried out with quiet precision. From the outside, it may look abrupt, but inside, it's the endpoint of a long process where every wound was weighed and every disappointment tallied. The research describes the door slam as a protective measure, often calculated and preceded by subtle warning signs, such as withdrawal or shorter replies. It isn't impulsive. You likely tolerated destructive patterns for months, hoping they'd change. You adjust your expectations lower each time, until there's nothing left to hold on to. By the time you choose to cut someone out, it's not about rage anymore. It's about exhaustion. If you notice shorter replies or a sudden coldness from someone in your life, that's often the last chance to check in before the door quietly closes. Once the slam happens, it feels complete. You may block contact, file away the memories, and rebuild your life without their presence. This distance protects you, because empathy pulls you too deeply to manage half measures. But there's another hidden edge to this same empathy. It can turn from a shield into something far more controlling. And that's where things take a darker turn. Dark trait number 3, subtle manipulation and emotional control. INFJs have a way of seeing emotional weak points, the way an architect sees load-bearing walls. Instantly, almost effortlessly. Your empathy, which usually connects you to others, can flip into a roadmap of vulnerabilities when you feel dismissed or powerless. The extroverted feeling function makes you highly aware of others' emotions, and that same sensitivity gives you the ability to influence them. You don't manipulate like a cartoon villain. Your moves are quiet, indirect, and often self-justified. It might highlight specific facts while leaving out others, steering a choice by reflecting only the emotions that support the desired outcome. To you, it feels protective. If they cared, they'd know without me saying. However, over time, protection can start to resemble control, even if you never intended harm. The research even compares this to an unassuming cult leader, someone who creates dependency without ever announcing it. Your guidance can blur into orchestration, where people believe the decision is theirs while following the script you've laid out. The hardest part is awareness. Years of anticipating others' needs can make emotional maneuvering feel natural, almost invisible. To catch yourself, ask, am I guiding or orchestrating? Guiding is transparent. Orchestrating hides expectations. Unchecked, this tendency doesn't just steer people, it begins to shape the standards you hold them to. And those standards can become just as destructive. Dark trait number 4, perfectionist criticism that destroys relationships. When it comes to relationships, you often hold onto an exacting inner blueprint of how things should work. This vision, shaped by your introverted intuition, sets a standard that others can rarely meet. And when they fall short, your words cut sharply. What you intend as help lands as criticism, a scalpel that dissects rather than repairs. Your remarks usually don't target surface flaws. You zero in on what matters: authenticity, growth, effort, but you phrase it in ways that sting. If you cared, you'd remember. Or, you could do better. The truth in those statements makes them hard to dismiss, but it also makes them harder to carry. In the shadow, you lean away from introverted intuition's grounded insight into a flimsier extroverted intuition that chases outside evidence. That's why you may start grabbing at patterns, overanalyzing, and doubting your own inner guidance. The result is overwhelm and self-doubt, and the standard you impose on others grows harsher. Click the link in the comments to take our favorite free personality test if you want to see how your functions line up. Here's the takeaway. Notice when you're chasing external patterns instead of trusting your internal sense. Recognizing the shift keeps you from turning ideals into pressure. And if that pressure builds too high, your next move isn't more words, it's withdrawal. Dark trait number 5. Complete emotional withdrawal and isolation. Sometimes the shift is striking. You're fully present one day, engaged and responsive, and the next, your energy is gone. Messages sit unanswered, plans collapse, and those around you can feel as if you've slipped into another dimension. This is complete emotional withdrawal and isolation. When you disappear, it's not usually to punish. Usually, you're trying to protect yourself from overwhelm. INFJs process emotions so deeply that stress can feel like drowning, and pulling back becomes your oxygen mask. The research explains it clearly. Withdrawal is a survival response, a way to reassemble your fractured sense of self when the weight feels too heavy. How long you stay gone varies. Some people need days, while others require weeks or months. On the surface, you may still manage polite greetings or fulfill obligations, but the real you feels absent. To friends and loved ones, it can feel like interacting with a hollow projection rather than the person they knew. The cruel irony is that in trying to protect yourself, you risk damaging the relationships you most want to keep. A small phrase can soften the impact. Even a text saying, "I need time to process, this isn't about you," can preserve bonds that silence alone might erode. But if that bond has already been crossed or betrayed, withdrawal isn't the only shadow trait that surfaces. Something colder and more deliberate can take its place. Dark trait number 6. Vindictive behavior when betrayed. When betrayal enters the picture, something inside you shifts. Vindictive behavior may surface, not as rage, but as a cold, deliberate form of justice. To others, it feels sudden and jarring. But for you, it comes after someone has shattered values you consider sacred, like loyalty or authenticity. Your retaliation isn't impulsive. Every step is calculated. Your usually forgiving nature can twist into precision-level ruthlessness. Grievances you seem to overlook are resurrected with striking accuracy. This is where your shadow function, introverted sensing, comes into play. Introverted sensing compares past experiences to present ones, and in the shadow, it dredges up a laundry list of embarrassing failures and broken promises. What was once buried comes back as evidence, and you deploy it not chaotically, but with icy control. The methods rarely escalate into loud scenes. Instead, you may let truth reveal someone's character, or bring up their track record during conflict in ways they cannot deny. You don't enjoy this. Research shows you act from an existential place, when your sense of moral order feels broken. Here's something to ask yourself. Are you trying to restore moral order, or are you reenacting pain? That question matters, because if the answer is the latter, the next defense you reach for goes even further than retaliation. Dark trait number 7, ruthlessly cutting people out forever. There's a point where distance and even retaliation don't feel like enough. What follows is your most absolute defense, ruthlessly cutting someone out forever. It isn't just about silence, it's about erasure. You don't only step back, you rebuild your emotional hard drive as if that person never had a place in it. Photos get wiped, bonds rerouted, and even memories filed into inaccessible corners. This goes beyond the classic door slam. The research frames it as something more extreme, a psychological defragmentation where every trace is actively removed. Where others might still linger through grudges or late-night scrolling, you move past obsession into something colder, indifference. Someone who once defined your world can one day pass you on the street and feel no more than a stranger. To outsiders, it may seem cruel, but the research is clear. This is neurological self-defense. Your empathy makes half measures impossible, and the only way to sever attachment entirely is scorched earth. You're not punishing them. You're protecting yourself from being pulled back into cycles that drain you. From their side, this detachment is experienced as absolute. No closure conversation, no return path, just silence. And while it often feels irreversible to you, it's worth asking. If you've done this, what were you really protecting? Your safety or your pride? That question opens the door to a more profound truth about these darker traits. The background research stresses that becoming aware of the shadow helps integrate your unconscious and conscious selves, enabling real personal growth. These traits aren't flaws by default. They're survival tools pushed too far. If you want to continue the journey to understanding yourself or an INFJ in your life, click either of the following videos, where we continue to unlock the secrets of the INFJ personality type.